AITA, for not letting my husband's brother and his kid come over? Me, 35F, and my husband, 38 man, have been together for 15 years, and so has his brother and his wife. We have 2 kids, ages 4 and 7, and his brother also has 2 kids, 10 and 4. We live on the same street, and the kids like to play together. Me and the wife don't have the best relationship, but we're cordial with one another and try to avoid each other as much as possible. So my husband and his brother are the ones who meet with the kids. In the last 2 months, the kids have been spending weekends together, which is great, but it's mainly in our house. When they come over, my husband and his brother play video games in another room, leaving me to attend to the kids and clean after them. It's become this routine where I'm basically running a free daycare while they disappear into their gaming world. 4 kids under 10, scattered toys everywhere, snack requests, bathroom breaks, settling disputes over who gets which toy. Meanwhile, I can hear the controller clicks and their laughter from the other room. The arrangement started innocent enough. Kids want to play, we live close by, why not? But somewhere along the way it shifted. Their house became off limits without anyone actually saying so. Every weekend, the doorbell rings, and in they come. My living room transforms into chaos central, while I become the default supervisor. Last weekend, when they showed up again, I half-jokingly said that the next playdate would be at their house. I needed some time for myself, and to do stuff around the house without interruption. It seemed reasonable, fair even. We'd been hosting for weeks straight. My husband nodded along, his brother made some non-committal sound, and I thought maybe I'd finally gotten through. Maybe next weekend I'd have my Saturday back. I could tackle that pile of laundry that had been staring at me accusingly. Maybe read a book. Maybe just sit in silence for 30 minutes, without someone asking me to open a juice box. The next evening I went to work feeling lighter. I'd advocated for myself, set a boundary, and it felt good. I spent my lunch break imagining a quiet weekend morning. Coffee that stayed hot because I could actually finish it. No stepping on Legos barefoot. When I came home that evening, his brother was there again. The familiar sound of video game music drifted from the back room. Toys scattered across the living room like a colorful explosion. 4 kids running around, hyped up on whatever snacks they'd gotten into. My coffee table had juice box straws and cracker crumbs decorating it. The rage hit me immediately. Not just anger, but that deep frustration of being completely ignored. I'd made a simple request less than 24 hours ago, and here we were again. Same scene, same chaos, same me left holding the bag. They all went outside to the playground after that, probably sensing my mood. The house fell quiet, except for my footsteps, as I walked through the disaster zone that used to be my living room. Each misplaced toy felt like evidence of how little my words had mattered. A few days passed. My husband started the guilt campaign immediately. His nephew wanted to come over. The kids missed playing together. Why was I being so difficult about something so simple? He painted me as the villain in this story, the mean aunt who didn't want family around, but that wasn't it at all. I wasn't against the kids playing together. I wasn't trying to break up their little cousin bond. I just wanted rotation. I wanted to split more evenly the amount of time the kids spent between the 2 houses. 50-50 seemed fair. Even 60-40 would be an improvement over the current arrangement of 90-10. The guilt trips continued. Every conversation somehow circled back to how disappointed his nephew would be, how I was disrupting this beautiful family tradition, how the kids had been looking forward to their weekend hangouts. Never mind that they could still hang out, just at a different address 3 houses down. My husband positioned himself as the reasonable one, the family-oriented one, the one who just wanted everyone to get along. Meanwhile, I became the unreasonable wife who couldn't handle a few kids playing in her living room. The narrative wrote itself, and I was cast as the antagonist. They still hadn't met at their house, not once in the last month. The pattern had solidified completely. Our house was the designated play zone, and their house remained mysteriously unavailable. No explanations, no discussions about why the rotation couldn't work. Just the expectation that things would continue exactly as they had been. I found myself walking through my own home, feeling like a stranger. Every Friday I'd tense up, knowing what weekend would bring. Every Saturday morning, I'd brace myself for the doorbell, for the invasion of noise and chaos and responsibility that wasn't entirely mine to bear. The issue wasn't really the mess. They cleaned afterward when I asked them to, and the men didn't argue when I shut their gaming time down. It was bigger than scattered toys and sticky fingerprints on my coffee table. I wanted them to go over there so I could also get some quiet time alone, some space to breathe in my own home. Some weekends where I wasn't automatically on kid duty the moment they arrived. Some acknowledgement that hosting 4 children every weekend was work, regardless of how willing I was to do it. The guilt continued building. His nephew's sad face became a weapon in every conversation. The brother started asking why they couldn't come over, adding his voice to the chorus of confusion about my sudden unreasonableness. The kids themselves began asking questions that put me in the position of having to explain adult dynamics to confused 10-year-olds. I stood my ground anyway. No more automatic hosting until we figured out a fair rotation. No more defaulting to our house because it was easier than having an uncomfortable conversation with his brother and sister-in-law. No more letting myself become the path of least resistance in a situation that affected my weekends, my energy, my home. My husband kept pushing. The nephew's disappointment grew into a story with more details each time he told it. How the kid had been planning what games to bring over, how excited he'd been about the weekend, how confused he was about why Aunt suddenly didn't want him around. But I wasn't budging. Not because I enjoyed being cast as the villain, and not because I wanted to hurt anyone's feelings. Because sometimes standing up for yourself means accepting that other people will paint you as difficult. Sometimes fair doesn't feel good to the people who were benefiting from unfair. The street between our houses suddenly felt much longer. The easy family dynamic we built over months crumbled over something as simple as asking for balance. My husband continued putting me in the bad guy position when all I'd done was ask for rotation, for equity, for consideration. I held firm on not allowing them to come over. Not until someone acknowledged that hosting was work, that fairness mattered, that my weekends had value too. The nephew's disappointment became collateral damage in a battle over respect that should never have needed fighting. Am I the asshole for hanging up on my sister after she tried to hijack my birthday plans? I'm a 29-year-old woman with a complicated family dynamic. My middle sister Rebecca is 30, and she's always been what I'd call the golden child. She and my mom are extremely close. My older sister Vanessa is 31, and we're very close, but she doesn't have a good relationship with my mom and Rebecca. My birthday was coming up, and I made plans with my mom, my dad, and my husband to go to brunch to celebrate. My dad's birthday is 2 days before mine, and he genuinely doesn't care about celebrating his own words. So I suggested we celebrate together, like we always had in the past. My dad also has dementia. What started the drama was that I mentioned wanting to invite Vanessa and her family. My mom just made a face, but didn't say much. I thought that was that, everything was planned, and I continued my normal day-to-day activities. The next day, my middle sister Rebecca called me and my mom on a 3-way call. She told me, not asked me, that instead of brunch we were going to cook at home because they didn't want to pay for 2 weekends of brunch in a row. She and her girlfriend. I said, but it's my birthday. She said, don't interrupt me. Yikes, but I let her continue. She then said since her and my mom aren't on good terms with Vanessa, it would be a problem if she came. I said I hadn't even officially invited her yet. It was just a suggestion. She told me to stop cutting her off. I didn't like the way she was speaking to me, so I hung up. That's it. I just hung up. What followed was chaos. She sent me a flood of messages telling me not to contact her ever again. All I said was, cool. Then she started sending messages saying that I need to fix myself, and that I have issues. The universe is punishing me because I'm not working on myself. There's a reason that she and I don't hang out, and that this is why people don't mess with me. She was referring to the fact that I've had to cut friends out of my life because they were toxic. She also said it's not all about me, since it's my dad's birthday too, even though my dad himself had already told us he doesn't care about celebrating his birthday, and it's just another day to him. Remember, I was the one who wanted to include him in the first place. She then started bringing up things that I only told my mom during a difficult and vulnerable time in my marriage. I had gone to her for wisdom, advice, and comfort, as she is my mom. Big mistake. I started to block her on every platform after she sent me, at this point, aggressive messages, even though I never responded to her once after my initial cool. She then continued anyway with even more vile messages. She sent multiple audio messages saying the same things. She went after Vanessa too and said that she corrupted me. My mom was on that three-way call and said absolutely nothing. I called her 6 times afterward. She ignored every call. I was sending her screenshots of everything my sister was saying, and my mom just left me on read, multiple times. 2 days later, she texted me, asking me to fix her TV, like nothing happened. For context, I am currently 20 days sober, in therapy, and working actively on myself, but neither she nor my mom know that. But according to my sister, I'm the one who needs to fix herself. Thank you everyone for your comments. The day of my dad's birthday I could only call, as my mom had him out all day, and I haven't heard from them since. My mom, and on behalf of my dad, texted me happy birthday at 11:30 p.m. I didn't even open the message. No one on my mom's side of the family wished me a happy birthday either. On the bright side, I still had a great birthday and found out my husband and I are expecting the next day. We plan on going no contact with Rebecca, which was already happening, and very low contact with my parents. I think my subconscious was doing me a favor. I don't want to bring my child around people who are disrespectful. The whole situation started because I wanted a simple birthday brunch. I suggested including my dad because his birthday falls 2 days before mine, and he's always said he doesn't care about celebrating. He has dementia now, and celebrating together seemed like a nice way to honor him while still having my day. When I mentioned inviting Vanessa and her family, my mom made a face but didn't object outright. Rebecca's three-way call the next day felt like an ambush. She wasn't asking about changes to the plans. Cook at home instead of brunch, because she didn't want to pay for 2 weekends of restaurant meals. Vanessa couldn't come because of their ongoing conflict. The tone was condescending and controlling. When I tried to speak up about it being my birthday, she shut me down immediately. Being told "don't interrupt me" by my own sister when discussing my birthday plans crossed a line. Being told to stop cutting her off when I was barely speaking felt deliberately provocative. The entire conversation felt designed to strip away any agency I had over my own celebration. Hanging up seemed like the only way to preserve my dignity in that moment. I wasn't yelling or name-calling or creating drama. I simply removed myself from a conversation where I was being treated poorly. Rebecca's response revealed the real dynamic at play. A flood of messages telling me never to contact her again, followed immediately by more messages attacking my character. The universe is punishing me because I'm not working on myself. I have issues that need fixing. There's a reason people don't mess with me. Each message was designed to tear down my self-worth. The cruelest part was when she brought up private details from my marriage struggles. Things I had shared with my mom during vulnerable moments, seeking comfort and guidance. My mom had betrayed that confidence by sharing those intimate details with Rebecca, who was now weaponizing them against me. My mom's silence during the three-way call spoke volumes. She sat there while Rebecca steamrolled over my birthday plans and said nothing. When Rebecca launched into personal attacks afterward, my mom ignored my calls and left my screenshots on read. Her request to fix her TV 2 days later, acting like nothing happened, showed how little she valued my feelings. The irony wasn't lost on me that Rebecca was claiming I needed to work on myself. At that exact moment, I was 20 days sober, actively going to therapy, and genuinely trying to improve my life. But she and my mom had no idea because they never bothered to ask how I was doing or what was happening in my life beyond what they needed from me. Rebecca's attacks on Vanessa revealed another layer of the family dysfunction. That pregnancy announcement changed everything. Suddenly, the decision to distance myself from Rebecca and my parents wasn't just about protecting my own mental health. It was about protecting my future child from people who demonstrate such casual disrespect and manipulation. Going no contact with Rebecca was already in motion after her vicious messages. Very low contact with my parents feels like the healthiest boundary for everyone involved. My subconscious might have been doing me a favor by creating this conflict. It forced me to see clearly how these relationships were affecting me. I don't want to bring my child around people who are disrespectful. That simple statement carries the weight of breaking generational patterns and choosing something better for the next generation. My brother is getting divorced, and I think he deserves it. My brother and his wife have been married for almost 20 years and have 3 kids in their teens. My soon-to-be ex-sister-in-law, I suppose, filed for divorce recently because she can no longer stand all the years of infidelity. I've heard about my brother's disgusting behavior issues for years, but I think they always stay together for the kids' sake. Unsurprisingly, my sister-in-law can't stand for it any longer. And now my brother is scrambling and trying to, what now? My brother is getting divorced, and I think he deserves it. My brother and his wife have been married for almost 20 years and have 3 kids in their teens. My soon-to-be ex-sister-in-law, I suppose, filed for divorce recently because she can no longer stand all the years of infidelity. I've been watching this marriage crumble from the sidelines for what feels like forever. The whispered phone conversations at family gatherings, the way my brother would disappear for hours without explanation, the uncomfortable silences when his wife would ask where he'd been. Everyone in our family knew something was wrong, but nobody wanted to be the one to say it out loud. The infidelity wasn't a one-time mistake. It wasn't a moment of weakness or a midlife crisis. This was a pattern that stretched back years, maybe even over a decade. My sister-in-law endured betrayal after betrayal, each time choosing to stay, each time hoping things would change. She'd catch him in lies, confront him about suspicious behavior, find evidence of his affairs, and somehow he'd convince her to give him another chance. I've heard about my brother's disgusting behavior issues for years, but I think they always stayed together, for the kids' sake. Their 3 teenagers had no idea their father was living a double life. At least, that's what we all hoped. Kids are smarter than adults give them credit for. They notice when their parents stop sleeping in the same room. They pick up on the tension during dinner. They hear the arguments that happen after they're supposed to be asleep. My sister-in-law became a master at keeping up appearances. She'd smile at school events, laugh at family barbecues, post happy anniversary messages on social media. But I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she'd flinch slightly when my brother put his arm around her in public, the forced nature of her laughter when he'd make jokes about commitment or loyalty. She threw herself into her kids' activities with an intensity that bordered on desperation. Every soccer game, every school play, every parent-teacher conference became a chance to focus on something other than her crumbling marriage. She volunteered for every committee, organized every fundraiser, became the mom that everyone relied on because staying busy meant not having to think about what was happening at home. The breaking point came 6 months ago, though she didn't tell anyone about it until recently. My brother had been having an affair with a coworker for over a year, not just physical, but emotional too. He was taking this woman on trips, buying her gifts, telling her things he'd never shared with his own wife. When my sister-in-law found out, it wasn't through catching them together or finding incriminating texts. The other woman contacted her directly. This mistress had grown tired of being the secret. She wanted my brother to leave his family and commit to her properly. When he refused, when he fed her the same lies he'd been telling his wife about needing more time, about the situation being complicated, she decided to force his hand. She called my sister-in-law and laid out everything, every detail, every lie, every promise my brother had made to both women. Unsurprisingly, my sister-in-law can't stand for it any longer, and now my brother is scrambling and trying to make it up to her with his whole "I don't want the kids to hate me" spiel, but it's too late. He's suddenly interested in marriage counseling after 20 years. He's promising to cut off all contact with other women, to be transparent about his whereabouts, to do whatever it takes to rebuild trust. But trust isn't something you can rebuild when you've spent years systematically destroying it. My sister-in-law looked at this man she'd shared 2 decades with and realized she didn't know him at all. The person she'd married, the father of her children, had been lying to her face for years, while she sacrificed her own happiness to keep their family together. The divorce papers were filed on a Tuesday morning. My sister-in-law didn't tell my brother beforehand. She didn't give him a chance to talk her out of it or promise to change. She just walked into that lawyer's office and made it official. When the papers were served to him at work, he called her crying, begging, making promises he should have been making years ago. I don't understand these men that claim they love their kids but pull nonsense like this. Like, come on. You have 2 daughters and you say you love them but still do this? What if someone treated your daughters this way? He's always talking about being protective of his girls, about wanting them to find good men who will treat them right. But what kind of example has he been setting? What has he been teaching them about what love looks like? His daughters are 16 and 14 now, old enough to understand that marriages don't just end without reason, old enough to ask questions that he's not going to want to answer. They've spent their entire lives watching him interact with their mother. They've absorbed those patterns, those dynamics, those subtle signs of disrespect and dishonesty. Those lessons don't get erased just because he suddenly wants to be a good father. The youngest is 13, a son who idolized his father until recently. He used to brag about my brother to his friends, used to want to grow up to be just like him. Now he's starting to piece together why the house feels different, why his parents don't talk to each other anymore, why his mom cries when she thinks nobody is looking. My family expects me to be supportive of my brother during this difficult time. I'll probably be told to cheer him up or whatever, but I don't want to. He brought this upon himself. They want me to help him through his depression, to remind him that everyone makes mistakes, to encourage him to fight for his marriage. But why should I validate behavior that I find disgusting? Why should I comfort someone who spent years hurting people I care about? Good on my sister-in-law for finally breaking free. It took incredible strength to walk away from 20 years of history, from the life they built together, from the financial security of a dual-income household. She's starting over in her 40s, with 3 teenagers to support, and a lifetime of shared memories that are now tainted by betrayal. If the kids hate him, if it's because of the way he has been treating their mother all these years, then that's on him. Children aren't blind to the dynamics in their homes. They notice when one parent disrespects the other. They internalize those patterns and carry them into their own relationships. My brother's actions didn't just damage his marriage. They shaped his children's understanding of what love looks like. I feel bad for the kids because of all the hurt that's going to happen when they find out the full truth. Right now, they know their parents are getting divorced, but they don't know why. They don't know about the years of lies, the multiple affairs, the complete breakdown of trust that led to this moment. Eventually, they'll learn the details. Eventually, they'll understand that their father chose his own desires over their family's stability. But this is no way for my sister-in-law and for them to live. A home built on deception isn't really a home at all. Those kids deserve to see what healthy relationships look like. They deserve to watch their mother rediscover her self-worth and build a life based on honesty and respect. Infidelity is considered normal at a certain point in our culture. But that's for the older generation. The newer generation should never have to stand for it. Those kids should grow up never having to stand it either. I hope my ex-sister-in-law and the kids will be okay. They're moving out next month, starting fresh in a smaller house across town, where every room won't remind them of the lies that were told there. My sister-in-law seems lighter already, like she's been holding her breath for years, and can finally exhale. She deserves so much better than what she settled for. They all do. I found out girlfriend cheated and lied. Hi, dropping my story and situation here. I am a 22-year-old man married to a 22-year-old woman. We began dating 2 years ago. We fell in love and dated for about a year and a half. Before we got married, I was a virgin. I had some girlfriends, but never went all the way. I had no reason to think she was lying, so I believed her. If I found out girlfriend, now wife, cheated and lied. I am a 22-year-old man married to a 22-year-old woman. We began dating 2 years ago. We fell in love and dated for about a year and a half. Before we got married, I was a virgin. I had some girlfriends, but never went all the way. She told me she was one as well. I had no reason to think she was lying, so I believed her. If she wasn't one, I wouldn't have been mad or upset. The only reason I was a virgin was because I was just not super confident. Skinny, not muscly. You know how it is. We had this whirlwind romance. 2 years felt like a lifetime when you're that young and everything is intense. She was beautiful, funny, made me feel like I could conquer the world. When she looked at me, I forgot about being the skinny guy who never felt good enough. We talked about everything. Our fears, our dreams, our past relationships. She mentioned her ex a few times, just casual stuff. They dated for a while in high school, broke up before college, stayed friends on social media like everyone does. She was always pretty open about it. Said they never really clicked physically, that it was more of a friendship that tried to be something else. I appreciated her honesty. It made me trust her more. The engagement happened fast. Maybe too fast, but when you know, right? We were both working entry-level jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, but we didn't care. We found this tiny apartment we could barely afford and started planning a future together. Her parents helped with the wedding. Nothing fancy, just family and close friends at a community center. The honeymoon phase was everything I'd imagined. We were broke, but happy. She'd leave little notes in my lunch. I'd surprise her with flowers from the grocery store clearance section. We'd stay up talking until 3 a.m. about stupid things that felt important. Sex was awkward at first, like it probably is for most virgins, but we figured it out together. At least that's what I thought was happening. 4 months into marriage, we're settling into this routine. Work, dinner, Netflix, bed. Normal married couple stuff. She's gotten more comfortable with her phone around me, which I took as a good sign. Trust building, walls coming down, all that. This particular evening, she's lying on the couch scrolling through Instagram. I'm doing dishes, half listening to some show she put on. She gets this weird look on her face. Not scared exactly, but surprised. Like when you run into someone you weren't expecting to see. She clicks into her direct messages. I can see her thumb hovering over something. Then she looks up at me. There's this expression I'd never seen before. Guilty doesn't cover it. It was like she was calculating something in her head, and her voice has this weird pitch to it. I got a message from Jake. Jake, the ex-boyfriend. The one who was supposedly just a friend who never worked out. I dry my hands on the dish towel and walk over. Oh yeah? What's he want? She's still staring at her phone. Just saying hi, I guess. I thought I deleted all our old conversations. The way she says it makes my stomach drop. Not because she got a message from an ex, but because of how she's acting about it. The calculation in her eyes, the careful word choice. Can I see? I ask. That's when she gets weird. Really weird. She pulls the phone closer to her chest and looks at me like I just asked to read her diary. Why do you need to see it? I don't need to. You're acting strange about it. She stares at me for what feels like forever. I can see her mind working, trying to figure out what to do next. Finally, she hands me the phone, but her hand is shaking. The message thread is right there on the screen. The newest message is just, "Hey stranger, how's married life?" Innocent enough, but I can see there's a whole conversation history above it. Months and months of messages. I thought you said you deleted everything. I thought I did. I must have missed this one. I scroll up. The messages get more personal as I go back in time. Inside jokes, casual flirting, stuff that makes my chest tight, but isn't necessarily crossing lines. Then I see the photos. Not innocent photos. Photos of her I'd never seen before. Photos she'd never taken for me. And responses from him that make it clear this wasn't some casual friendship that fizzled out. The messages about his body, about what he wanted to do to her, about what they had done together. Detailed messages, graphic messages, messages that made it very, very clear that my wife had not been a virgin when we got married. I'm reading these things and my hands start shaking, not from anger exactly, from this horrible realization that everything I thought I knew was wrong. She's sitting next to me, completely silent, watching me read about her sexual relationship with another man. You told me you were a virgin. I know. These messages are from before we got married. You lied to me. She starts crying then, not the kind of crying that feels manipulative, but the kind that feels like relief, like she's been holding her breath for months and finally gets to exhale. I was ashamed, she says. I knew how important it was to you. I knew you were saving yourself, and I wanted to be that for you too. I didn't want you to think less of me. I hand her the phone back. My brain feels like it's moving through mud. I keep trying to process what I just saw, but it's like trying to solve a math problem when you're having a heart attack. I need some air, I tell her. I walk around the block probably 10 times. Our neighborhood is quiet at night, just streetlights and the occasional dog barking. I keep replaying conversations we had about being each other's first, about how special that made our relationship, about how we were learning together. When I get back, she's in bed, still crying. Or the day after that. It hangs between us like smoke, but neither of us knows how to clear the air. Finally, after about a week of this weird tension, I bring it up again. Is there anything else I should know? She looks me right in the eyes. No. I only lied because I was ashamed of what happened with Jake. But it's over. It's been over since before we even met. I want to believe her so badly. We're married. We have joint bank accounts, a lease, a life together. Starting over feels impossible. And honestly, I love her. Even with this lie hanging between us, I love her. So I forgive her. We talk it through. She explains that she was embarrassed about her past, that she wanted to be the person she thought I needed her to be. It makes sense, in a twisted way. We agree to be completely honest with each other going forward. For about a month, things get better. We're talking more openly. The intimacy comes back slowly. I start to think maybe this is just part of growing up, learning that people have complicated pasts, and marriage means accepting all of someone. But I can't shake this feeling. This nagging voice that keeps asking, if she lied about something that big, for that long, what else might she be hiding? One night, she's in the shower, and her phone buzzes with a text. I don't normally look at her phone, but something compels me to check. It's not Jake this time. It's her best friend asking if she ever told me the whole truth about that week. That week. What week? I know I shouldn't, but I open her messages with her friend. I scroll back, looking for context. And there it is, a conversation from a month ago, right after our big talk about honesty. Her friend asking how I took the news about Jake. My wife responding that she only told me about the relationship, not about them sleeping together the week we started dating. The week we started dating. I read it 3 times to make sure I understand. While I was falling in love with her. While I was thinking we were building something special together. She was sleeping with her ex-boyfriend. The shower is still running. I put her phone back exactly where it was and sit on the edge of our bed. Our bed. The bed where I thought we were sharing something sacred, something that belonged just to us. When she comes out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her hair, smiling at me like nothing in the world is wrong, I feel something break inside my chest. We need to talk. My MIL made a sexually inappropriate comment regarding my husband. For context, my husband and I have been staying with his mother, father, and youngest sister for the past few months, waiting on our place to be ready. Currently, I am 21 weeks pregnant and helping my MIL in her home daycare. Since we've been here, it has been stated this was highly temporary until our place is available to move into, as the unit is being reconstructed. She has stopped at nothing to try to convince us to. My mother-in-law made a sexually inappropriate comment regarding my husband. For context, my husband and I have been staying with his mother, father, and youngest sister for the past few months, waiting on our place to be ready. Currently, I am 21 weeks pregnant and helping my mother-in-law in her home daycare. Since we've been here, it has been stated this was highly temporary until our place is available to move into, as the unit is being reconstructed. She has stopped at nothing to try to convince us to stay living with them and cancel our lease. We both are going to school in my home state, so it would make 0 sense to stay here anyways. Her whole thing is that my husband must take care of his parents because they have health issues. She wants us to transfer schools and stay here so she can help with the baby. We have a perfectly fine support system in my home state and live less than 10 minutes away from my law school and where he's getting his master's. Between trying to force us to drop our lives where we've been building it to essentially become her caregivers, she has become increasingly negative as the time approaches for us to move back. Every day there is a negative comment regarding how much of a rude awakening we will have and how we are going to regret trying to raise a child away from her. His oldest sister lives in an entirely different state and has been since her child was born, so I'm unsure what the difference is here. A few days ago, I was cleaning the daycare. My husband came home from running errands for her and greeted the children. A short while after, while I was still cleaning, she calls my name. She tells me I need to be careful with my husband around one of the little girls. For reference, one of the children in the daycare has told us how she has no dad. She's only 4 years old, and you can tell that it hurts her. She's at the point where she's questioning those things. She tends to follow my husband around when he's here, primarily because I think he reminds her of her uncle, and also because she just might be seeing him as a fatherly figure. Her comment was referring to the fact she thinks this little girl is fast and has a crush on my husband. Just extremely odd and gross. I immediately stopped my mother-in-law. I'd been touched as a child before, so that comment was a loaded gun of triggers. I explicitly stated how it was weird for her to say that, and she's talking about a little girl. I also didn't appreciate the way it was worded when I'm carrying his daughter. Like, what do you mean, be careful of my husband? What are you insinuating? She immediately goes into control mode, demanding that I listen to her so she can explain the joke. I responded that I don't have to listen to what she's saying if I don't want to. Please stop. It was completely inappropriate. I continue to finish taking the trash and mop water outside. She follows me to continue yelling at me that I have to listen to her. I simply stated she doesn't know when to leave people alone when they don't want to engage with her. Please stop. I walked outside at the front of the house to avoid the situation and regulate myself. I told my husband I needed a break from being here and some distance, so I decided to book a hotel. He asked me to come back inside, to pack myself a bag. But between the pregnancy hormones and being completely triggered and then physically followed around when trying to disengage, I'm having a complete meltdown. I told him for my sanity right now, I don't want to be around her. I got into his car, which we shipped down here, thank God, to be able to have that freedom of leaving when we want. Something told me to lock the doors. She comes outside to try to open the car door so she can physically position herself where I cannot close it, and I am forced to engage with her. At this point, I am so stressed out I'm cramping. I try my best to literally ignore her, but she starts banging on the car window. The whole while she's saying, I just proved I don't like her. I'm making him choose. My husband comes outside and tells her to stop and go back inside. She refuses and continues to bang on the window while I'm trying to pull out of the driveway. My husband has to physically guide her away from the car so I can leave. I drive to a nearby hotel and check in for the night. The cramping continues for several hours, and I'm genuinely worried about the baby. The next morning, my husband calls me. He says his mother spent the entire night crying and saying I overreacted. She claims she was only trying to protect the little girl because children can develop inappropriate attachments to adult figures. She insists I completely misunderstood her intentions and that she would never suggest anything inappropriate about her own son. When I return the following day to pack our things, she acts like nothing happened. She's overly sweet and keeps trying to touch my belly and talk about the baby. She mentions how this whole situation just proves we need to stay close to family because pregnancy hormones can make women irrational. She suggests we postpone our move until after the baby is born because traveling while pregnant is dangerous. My father-in-law pulls me aside and apologizes for his wife's behavior. He admits she's been getting worse as our departure date approaches because she's terrified of losing control over her son. He says she did the same thing when his oldest daughter moved away, and it took years for their relationship to recover. The little girl from the daycare runs up to my husband when she sees him packing boxes. She asks if he's going away like her daddy did. My heart breaks watching him kneel down to explain that some people have to move for school and work, but that doesn't mean they don't care about the people they leave behind. My mother-in-law watches this interaction with her arms crossed, shaking her head. That evening, she makes one final attempt to convince us to stay. She sits us down and presents a detailed plan of how we could transfer to local schools, how she could help with childcare, how much money we would save living with them. When we politely decline, her demeanor completely changes. She starts listing all the ways we're going to fail as parents without her guidance. She tells me I'm being selfish by taking her son and grandchild away from family. She says I'm manipulating him and that he would never choose to leave if it wasn't for me. She accuses me of trying to isolate him from his family and predicts that our marriage won't survive the stress of being alone with a new baby. The final straw comes when she suggests that maybe the pregnancy hormones are affecting my judgment so severely that I shouldn't be making major life decisions right now. She recommends I see a doctor about my emotional instability before we make any permanent moves. My husband finally stands up to her. He tells her that her behavior over the past few months has been completely unacceptable, and that her comment about the little girl was disturbing, regardless of her intentions. He explains that we're adults who are capable of making our own decisions, and that our constant negativity is only pushing us further away. She breaks down crying, saying she's only trying to help and that we're being ungrateful after everything she's done for us. She claims she sacrificed so much to let us stay there, and that this is how we repay her kindness. She threatens to never speak to us again if we leave. The next morning, we load our car in silence while she watches from the window. As we're pulling out of the driveway, she comes running outside one last time. She bangs on the passenger window where I'm sitting and screams that I'm stealing her son and that I'll regret keeping her grandchild away from family. My husband keeps driving while she chases the car down the street. I watch her in the side mirror, standing in the middle of the road, screaming at our disappearing car. The cramping starts again and doesn't stop until we're several states away. We never did go back to visit, and she never did apologize for what she said about that innocent little girl who just wanted a father figure in her life. My boyfriend opened up to me about an affair he had while he was with his ex, and I start to wonder whether he's just a massive sexist dickhead. For the context, he was previously married and told everyone that it ended because his ex-wife cheated on him and then filed in for divorce. 4 months into our relationship, he broke down, said he needs to tell me something, how unhappy he was in his marriage because his wife was always so cold to him. There was this coworker at his old workplace who had always had a crush on him. He poured his heart out to her, and she abused his horrible situation to hit on him. Then, they started sleeping with each other. This went on for a year. He never told his then-wife or anyone. The way he framed it, she was the predator. His coworker somehow manipulated him into this affair by taking advantage of his vulnerability. Like he was the victim in his own cheating. He painted himself as this wounded husband who got seduced by a calculating woman who knew exactly what she was doing. But the more he talked, the more the story started falling apart. This affair lasted 12 months. 12 full months of conscious decisions, of looking his wife in the eye every single day while carrying on with someone else, of lying through his teeth to everyone who asked about his marriage. He eventually left that workplace. His coworker tried reaching out to him many times to understand what was happening because she was deeply in love with him and never found closure. To this day, he has blocked her on every channel, phone number, Facebook, Instagram, so she can't reach out further. The woman he claimed manipulated him was actually desperately trying to get answers. She thought they had something real. She thought he cared about her the way she cared about him. Instead, he ghosted her completely and left her wondering what she did wrong. He says he is so ashamed of himself and he doesn't see himself the same anymore. Therefore, he has never told anyone. But that shame didn't stop him from lying to literally everyone about why his marriage ended. That shame didn't make him take responsibility for his choices. Instead, he spent years telling anyone who would listen that his ex-wife was the cheater. He made her the villain in their story. Let people comfort him and take his side while knowing the entire time that he was the one who destroyed their marriage. His wife probably lost friends over this, had people judging her character based on his lies. The manipulation goes deeper than just the affair itself. He rewrote history to make himself the wronged party, turned his victim into his villain and his accomplice into his abuser. Every single person in his life got a false version of events designed to make him look better. His ex-wife was cold, so cheating was understandable. His coworker was predatory, so he couldn't help himself. He was ashamed, so lying was justified. There's always an excuse, always someone else to blame, always a reason why his choices weren't really his fault. The coworker story bothers me the most. This woman fell in love with him during their year-long affair. She probably believed him when he complained about his marriage, probably thought he was going to leave his wife for her. When he switched jobs and cut contact, she was left completely in the dark. She reached out multiple times trying to understand, not to cause drama or expose him, but to get closure, to figure out what their relationship meant to him. Instead of giving her an honest explanation, he blocked her everywhere and painted her as a stalker who abused his vulnerability. That woman probably spent months wondering if she was crazy, questioning whether their connection was real or if she imagined it, blaming herself for somehow ruining things. He was already crafting the narrative where she was the aggressor and he was her victim. The pattern is crystal clear. When he cheats, it's because his wife was cold. When his affair partner wants answers, she's being predatory. When he lies to everyone, it's because he's too ashamed to tell the truth. Every single action gets justified through someone else's behavior. But shame doesn't work like this. Real shame makes you want to come clean, not cover up. Real remorse drives you to take accountability, not shift blame. Someone genuinely ashamed of cheating doesn't spend years lying about who actually cheated. He told me this story like he was being vulnerable and honest. Like finally telling someone the truth was this big step in his healing process. But even his confession was manipulative. Even coming clean, he couldn't resist making himself the victim of circumstances beyond his control. The way he described his coworker was particularly telling. She had always had a crush on him, so obviously she was just waiting for her chance to pounce. She hit on him when he was vulnerable, so she was taking advantage. She kept reaching out after he left, so she was refusing to respect boundaries. None of this acknowledges that he chose to engage. He chose to sleep with her repeatedly for an entire year. He chose to lead her on and then disappear without explanation. He chose to block her instead of having an adult conversation about ending things. His ex-wife probably had no idea what hit her. One day she's married, the next day people are whispering about how she cheated and destroyed her family. She likely never got the chance to defend herself because she didn't even know what she was being accused of. The cruelest part is how he stole her narrative. Cheating already destroys trust and self-worth. But then having your cheating partner flip the script and make you the cheater? Having friends and family judge you based on lies? That's a special kind of psychological warfare. He's been with me for 4 months and decided this was the right time to unload his truth. But it wasn't really truth. It was just a more detailed version of his victim story. He wanted credit for being honest without actually taking responsibility for his actions. This massive lack of accountability and deflection of guilt is exactly what it looks like. If he was truly ashamed and remorseful, he wouldn't have spent years lying to countless people. He wouldn't make everyone else responsible for his choices. He would have owned his mistakes instead of rewriting them. The red flags aren't just about the cheating. They're about the lying, the manipulation, the complete inability to accept fault. They're about how easily he destroyed 2 women's reputations to protect his own. How smoothly he turned his betrayals into their failures. Someone who can lie that extensively, that convincingly for that long, doesn't suddenly become honest. Someone who can blame everyone except himself for his choices doesn't magically develop accountability. Someone who can rewrite history that thoroughly doesn't stop being manipulative just because he's with someone new. The scariest part is how normal he made it all sound. How reasonable every excuse seemed in the moment. How he almost had me feeling sorry for him by the end of his story. That's not accidental. That's a well-practiced skill. He's not just a cheater. He's someone who cheats and then makes his victims into villains. Someone who lies so convincingly that even his confession feels like manipulation. Someone who takes no responsibility for the pain he causes and somehow makes it everyone else's fault. 4 months in, and he's already showing me exactly who he is. The question isn't whether he'll cheat again. It's whether I'm going to stick around long enough to become his next villain when he does.